So I recently just got done replaying Tales of Symphonia, the GameCube epic, like 20 years ago, 80-hour long RPG, classic experience. It took a while. It's been a while since I completed a full playthrough. I played the game growing up. I was a GameCube kid. I was a loser who didn't immediately have a PS2, so RPG pickings were slim pickings. Quality ones anyway. There was shit like Pokemon Coliseum. I don't know, probably some other shit I never heard about, but came across this game probably because I think my neighbors were teaching me about anime, and it was like, yo, check out this game. It's like an anime, but like a video game, and it's like, whoa, that was enough to hook little old me. But the gameplay was pretty sick, and the story had little tonyfinale pretty hooked back in the day, and it's neat coming back to it so many years later. I'm not a kid anymore, I'm a grown-ass man. I was thinking the idealistic JRPG shit of Tales of Symphonia wouldn't hold up. It'd be kind of fucking lame. But I am happy to say that it was not fucking lame. It was pretty corny, obviously, but I have the mental capacity to be able to shift my brain paradigm and be like, alright, I'm in the mood for some shit like this. I love corn, corn with crazy gameplay. I've played other Tales games, but they don't feel as polished as the combat in Tales of Symphonia, which is funny to say, right? Because people always dog on this game for, oh, you can't free run when you're locked to an enemy, or you're always locked to enemies. You can only move left and right in accordance to you and the enemy. You can only move forward and away from them. And you have to play this fucky-wucky game of if you want to dodge, you have to have a good mobility move to jump over them or something. Or you lock onto a different enemy who's on a different XY coordinate. They're in a position so that if you locked onto them and moved toward or away from them, you would be able to dodge whatever you were worried about a second ago. And it's this crazy game of getting on the level, the wavelength Tales of Symphonia asks of you. I thought was pretty engaging. I don't know if normal Joe derives that as the appeal of the experience. I know as a kid I didn't play like that. I just played as Lloyd the whole game, and I was a simple kid, so I ate it up. Just whacking stuff feels satisfying enough for a kid. But anyone older than the GameCube demographic coming to Tales of Symphonia, if you try to just play it with one character, loosely using the party control strategy menu, it might feel a little not engaging, because the actual combat doesn't have too much going on. You can whack a guy with your normal combos. You can map special moves to the B buttons like it's Smash Brothers, and do special attacks by hitting the B button in a direction like Smash Brothers. That's what I mean. Tiger Blade right there. I did that by hitting B and up. You pick the best moves you think are the best, and some of them combo into each other. It's weird. Some moves are labeled level 1, and level 1 moves can usually combo into level 2 moves, and level 3 moves can combo into level 3 moves. It's a little inconsistent. Some moves just fucking don't, for some reason. I know with Sheena, I kept trying to do a few of her seal moves, and they wouldn't lead into her level 3 Pyroseal. Some of them would, some of them wouldn't. It's a fucky-wucky RPG with a lot of variables. There's a lot of shit you gotta experiment with to make it work. But it was a fun enough project, figuring out how best to play Tales of Symphonia to keep it interesting. It was cool being able to come back to the game and find a new layer of depth to it that I never appreciated growing up. And yeah, I think I was gonna go on a tangent about shitting on other Tales games, because yeah, I've tried playing a lot of them, Vesperia, Tales of Symphonia 2, Tales of the Abyss, and hitting dudes just don't feel as good. On an intrinsic level, this game is fucking polished, whacking dudes, the animations and sounds, they're all really good. When you nail a dude with a Thunderblade, the effects are fucking that felt good. Every other Tales game, it feels kind of limp, and they lean more and more on cutscene attacks, you doing a mystic art in a key art of like your character shows up on the screen or like a cutscene plays. And like there really isn't any of that in Tales of Symphonia. There's 3, but they feel like cut content. Like Lloyd, Genus, and Colette have what would later be known as mystic arts, the cutscene moves, where, you know, a canned animation plays and your character does some crazy shit. That's only really exciting like on the first time you do it, because after that it's like, okay, the game's playing itself. In Tales of Symphonia, it feels like you're like always fucking playing it, because like, you know, it doesn't have none of that shit. There's like unison attacks, but those are all like dictated by you. Like you pick when you have a full meter, you can do like a group attack with your party, like everyone attacks at once with like a move you pick. So that's kind of like a really smart equivalent to the mystic arts, or like it should be the equivalent. Like in modern Tales games should have like mystic arts that are just like fucking that, because like it still feels like you're in control. Like the special cutscene attacks, quote unquote, in Symphonia are like picked by you. Like I think that's pretty neat, you know. I just like playing the game and, you know, not watching a fucking movie. Even though we're like playing an anime, I guess, here, but you know, like, whatever. So what else do I say? The gameplay was sick, or at least the combat was. You know, everything else kind of sucked ass. Growing up, I guess there was just like this, like, acceptance, or like ignorance, where like, if I didn't like something in a game, I think I just assumed that like, oh, well, you know, something must just be wrong with me. Like, I'm not smart enough to like, understand the appeal in this quite yet, but like, you know, like, or something was off. Like I didn't vocalize or internalize the lousy fucking exploratory shit in Symphonia, or I guess I just didn't care. But yeah, now that I'm an adult with I'm not gonna say like not limited free time, because, you know, I just spent like 2+ months, like in my downtime playing Tales of Symphonia, long-ass RPG. I clearly have time for this kind of thing. I'm just saying, it's not good to have content in your game that ain't good. You know, we can all agree on that. And the overworld stuff in this game is pretty lame. It doesn't have like the same level of polish the combat does. I think I was gonna tangent into this earlier, but I got sidetracked with some bullshit. But yeah, fighting dudes, there's all these great sound effects and effects, but like when you're running around doing dungeons and shit, it looks like ass. Like the animations are like really like limp or abrupt feeling, and it's just kind of fucking lame. But you have to like put up with it. There's like so many block pushing puzzles and riddles you have to solve, and they're like really slowly paced. I played the game on emulator, and I realized that like to keep enjoying the game, I should use a speed up to like skip all the shit that I don't care about, because like I've identified what the best part of the experience is, and like, you know, none of this other shit is helping, so we just gotta like get this stuff over with, alright? Stuff like menuing and, you know, buying stuff from towns, like that was fine. It's just like, you know, the dungeons kinda really fucking sucked. Like you push a block, and it's like you're playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, where like, you know, Link pushes blocks really slowly for no reason. Even though like, if you're pushing a block, you've probably already identified where you want to move it. So there's like really no point, like, with the preamble, like making it slow, the act of me getting it to where I want to go. You're just wasting my time. Like, I don't care if fucking like, oh, pushing a block would be heavy in real life. You know, we're invoking that in the gameplay. Bitch, we're playing an abstract RPG thing where we're giant on the world map. We don't need everything to be like, we don't need it to make sense like that. Get to the point. So yeah, the overworld stuff sucks. It weirdly got me thinking of RE4, how like, you know, that game has like, you know, when you're not doing combat, you'll do like exploratory stuff, but the exploratory stuff is not the bulk of the gameplay. So RE4 smartly uses that kind of shit just as like nice little pace breakers. Like, you'll fight some guys, and then you'll go up to a door where it has you like open it by like doing a quick little puzzle. You know, I'm talking like the Big Cheese's house in RE4, where like you have to like get the insignia to be in the right direction, and it only takes like a couple seconds, and the puzzle isn't iterated on. It's immediately discarded because the game identifies that like that's not the bulk of the experience or like the core of the appeal. Tales of Symphonia is like fucking out of its mind. and will iterate on shit that doesn't matter, like the puzzles in its dungeons, when, like, the fucking dungeons should have just been, like, they could have been, like, mystery dungeon levels for all I fucking care, just, like, interesting combat scenarios, or, like weird, like, areas that add modifiers to the combat or something, like, having me do a block pushing puzzle, like, bitch, shut the fuck up with your, you know, it's, you know, fun to identify that shit is no good, and it don't belong in the experience. But Tales of Symphonia is from, like, a legacy of, you know, RPGs where that's just the norm. You know, exploratory stuff. Final Fantasy, you know, going into dungeons and not doing combat, like doing things that lead up to combat. You know? So, like, I guess they thought the game needed that kind of shit back in the day. But I'm here to say we could do without that. You know, it makes me want to get back to Resonance of Fate. Like, that game has, like, dungeons that are just, like, you go into a dungeon, quote-unquote, and seemingly fucking, it's just, like, an encounter. And when you finish the encounter, you go, like, left or right of the arena, and then there's another encounter. And the dungeons are just an excuse for more fighting. The bulk of the gameplay, and it's like, holy shit, this is what I've been asking for my whole fucking life. That's what I've been waiting for. So, I gotta get back to that game. Tales of Symphonia, though. Yeah. The combat's sick. Exploratory stuff, take it or leave it. Mostly leave it. Play it on emulator, fucking skim it. How about the story? Because, you know, I loved that shit growing up. But that was, like, another thing with the gameplay, where, like, you know, if there was something I guess I probably didn't find immediately satisfying about the plot, like the lower moments. By lower, I mean, like, less hype that aren't, like, you know, the fate of the world shit, probably. Nice death there. I fucked that up so bad. Yeah, I guess I just assumed, like, oh, I'm not smart enough, so, you know, this has to be good. I'm just, like, not smart enough to understand it, probably. But, no, some parts of the plot are pretty bad, actually. Disc 2 feels like cut content, where, like, the game is trying to wrap up, like, really quickly. The opening of the game, like, the first 10 hours, it's weirdly, like, non-linear. You have to do, like, these 4 or 5 dungeons, and you can kind of do them in, like, whatever order you want. You do, like, the first one, but then, like, you could, like, tackle the other ones in, like, a weird fucky-wucky order. The difficulty curve is all over the place. Like, you do the back half dungeons that the game expects you to do later, and, like, the earlier ones are going to be piss easy. They don't, like, modify themselves to your level or anything like that. But it's this interesting non-linearity moment where, like, you could play the game however you want, which was kind of interesting. The later half of the game doesn't do that. It's just, like, pretty linear straight to the end, which is disappointing because, like, they have this opportunity for the game to keep being non-linear, where, like, you know, you've got the dungeons that the plot says you've got to do, and you could theoretically, like, okay, we could do them in any order, probably. But, like, no, like, the story dictates where you go. Like, in the first half of the game, it's, like, the dungeons with the seals, and then, like, later in the game, you have to, like, find the X number of summon spirits and form pacts with them, so you can, like, get their powers and shit and use them for stuff. You'd think you can do that in any order, but, like, you gotta do the Earth guy, then the Ice chick, then the Shadow guy, and it's like, why though? Like, fucking, you know, I'm not itching to get into these dungeons, I already said they kind of suck, but it's just this weird, like, disconnect from the earlier part of the game, where, like, it like, allowed itself to be non-linear, and then it doesn't. It was fucking weird and inconsistent. But that's just, like, how it goes with JRPGs. These games are so big. They're just kind of like a mishmash of, like, various ideas the devs had. And the enjoyment factor comes from, like, how it all comes together. You know, it's a bit of a mess, bit of a kitchen sink thing. I really liked Star Ocean 3. That game felt pretty similar in that it was kind of fucking cracked. Like, you didn't know what crazy thing the game was going to think of next. You go and do, like, you'd get out of a cave and you'd be in a desert and the game would suddenly be like, you have a water meter now, and if the water meter runs out, you die. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there was this, like, it's just some weird shit happening. I guess, like, that's where the appeal of, like, dungeoning in this game can come from. The dungeoning in this game, though, it was pretty one note, so it wasn't, like, funny, like the stuff in Star Ocean 3. Why am I talking about Star Wars and 3? I'm trying to go on about how JRPGs are like boxes of chocolate, you know? You know, that's a good metaphor, right? We like a good food metaphor. It's, you don't know what you're gonna get. Like, you have, like, an outline, like chocolate. I'm expecting combat and menus and stuff. But, like, how, like what flavors? How are we gonna tie it all together? Who the fuck knows? In 80 hours, anything could happen. So, you know, they're one of a kind like that. Was I talking about the story? Yeah, the story's like some idealistic fucking bullshit. You know, our main characters are roped into some save the world thing, but psych, the save the world thing where like there's a chosen one picked by society to save the world is actually some like manipulative bullshit where like the chosen one's like made to be like a sacrifice for the people in charge's own selfish desires. Like they use the body of the chosen one for some bullshit that doesn't have to do with saving the world because they're selfish, and of course the people in charge, the people at the top, are evil. The Pope is evil. Angels, religion, it's all fake. Fucking everyone's just in it for their own shit. And that kind of revelation blew me away as a kid. Like, what the fuck? A plot twist in a story. I've played Pokemon and nothing like that happened. Like, that kind of blew me away as a kid. And it's, like, fun to behold these days. You know? The conspiracy crap in Tales of Symphonia is, like, a good fun time. You know, when the characters are, like, getting hit with the exposition dumps where, like, the former bad guys turned, like, pseudo-allies, the renegades, not the angels, because the renegades are our friends now. They're going on about, like, the Church of Martell is nothing but a vehicle to rule the world, and it's like, whoa. Things that I thought were one way were another way. And it just keeps going, you know? You learn shit about, like, Lloyd's... Who was his father? Oh my god, it was Kratos, fucking the party member who betrayed us. And it's just like revelation after revelation, and it's a good fun time. What are the negatives? You know, I said Disc 2 is in a rush to end, and the game kind of doesn't really know what to do with its like 8 or 9 party members. Like after they initially join up, like Lloyd is the main character, and it feels like he's like the only one who's allowed to like have agency. Like everyone gets to talk during cutscenes and stuff, but like, you know, Lloyd's calling the shots. By the end of the game, all the characters are put into this like forced like situation where they're shown to be incompetent, or they're in a jam and it's up to Lloyd to like show them the way or get him out of it. And it's like a little corny because like, you know, like I guess like me the player, I'm supposed to project onto Lloyd because he's a kid. And, you know, he's got the gusto to change the world. And it's like, maybe me, the player, could have the gusto to do my homework, you know? Like, fucking, you know, it's that kind of shit. But, like, yeah, the other characters have, like, really good backstories, actually. Like, everyone's pretty nicely defined. It's disappointing that they they don't really get shafted, I'd say. It's just, like, yeah, every now and again, like, fucking Lloyd, like is eating everything on the dinner table. And it's like... You know, can we let like Regal do something? Like Regal and Presea are the last party members you get, and it's pretty funny. Like the game doesn't really know like what those guys can do outside of like their shtick. You know, like Rain. You know, she's the professor. You know, the white-haired mommy milkers. She doesn't have milkers, but she's like the sexy teacher who's like in your. She's not even sexy. She's just like, I like her because she's a cool adult, and you know, Rain's cool. But yeah. The game's all about, like, you know, discrimination and racism. That's, like, the fucking plot. And, like, Rain's a half-elf. So, like, for story sequences involving her, you know, it has to do with, like, her being a half-elf, the racism she's dealt with, the fantasy racism. There's no black people, of course. Fucking, you know, like, why she likes ruins, because she grew up in Tetheala, and she's been searching for the place she grew up her whole life. You know, her mom abandoned her. There's, like, a lot of stuff going on with Rain, and like in cutscenes they use her as like the voice of reason to like, you know, tell the players tell Lloyd the hard truth, like the shit we gotta do even if it sucks. Characters like Regal though, you know, like whenever he talks, he always has to bring up like, you know, his baggage. Same with Presea, you know, like they're kind of a package deal. Like Presea and Regal both have to do with Presea's sister who tragically died, and like they always have to, like, bring her up. Like, in every cutscene, Presea is always like, oh, I relate this to my dead sister. And it's kind of one note. You know, they don't have, like, as much utility as someone like Rain, who is the voice of reason. Presea... Wait, didn't we already watch this one? Yeah. Yeah, we already fought Romeo, I think. Great fucking boss fight, by the way. But yeah, I'm kind of running on here. But yeah, it's the classic JRPG shit where they want to have like a big cast of characters. They don't know what to do with all of them, but they're fun to have around, and they have good backstories. So like you buy them all hanging out together, even if, you know, like not everyone gets an equal slice of the pie. You know, we can have favorites. It's not like fucking... I'd say it's better than something like FF7. Where, like, am I shitting on FF7 needlessly? Because everyone feels pretty, like, good in that game. I guess, you know, Vincent Valentine doesn't talk as much as I'd like him to, though. So, you know, Tales of Symphonia is a little better in that regard. But Vincent Valentine is pretty fucking cool. No disrespect to that guy. Is that about it, though? Yeah, the story's, you know, JRPG, idealistic bullshit, but it's good fun. And, yeah, I think that's about it. You know, great game to come back to, you know. Thought it wouldn't hold up, and it did. You know, it's a little rough around the edges. You gotta play it on an emulator with, like, speed up and save states, otherwise this shit's just, you know, not... Then you wouldn't actually have the time to play this long-ass RPG, because, like, you'd have to watch the cutscenes every time you died, and, you know, the game isn't exactly, like, encouraging you to, like, engage with it in, like, the most, like, interesting ways possible. Because, like... You want to experiment with the bosses in combat and get the crazy combos and shit, but, like, if you know the consequence of, like, dying is, like, having to watch the cutscenes again, having to reload, you're gonna play like an asshole and just, like, use the stupid revive items that you can buy for pennies and just revive your party members if you keep dying and, you know, just play it really thoughtlessly. When, like, there's a real methodical way you could play the game, you just kind of have to, you know, see beyond the limitations of, like, the developer's initial intent. You know, them playing it on... them making it a GameCube game, putting in these slow-ass dungeons and fucking unskippable cutscenes. Like, you gotta be able to identify, that shit's no good. I know where the real fun is. I'm gonna, like, squeeze out the juice that's hidden within, because I know it's there. You know, not everyone's gonna be willing to do that. But... I guess at least for me, I had a pretty good time. Great game. Or good game. You know, I was doing, like, the optional content, and it kind of started to suck. I dropped beating the super boss. There's, like, a bonus super boss. Abyssion. And, I did not finish the fight with him, because, like, yeah, he was kind of just, like, one-shotting my dudes. And I thought I was, like, pretty good, actually. I thought I was stronger than the final boss, but, like, I guess I wasn't high enough level to fight him. But I did all of the content already. I don't know what the game was expecting of me to be able to beat that guy. I guess I could have tried longer, but, like, I've spent entire days... I spent, like, a whole day trying to beat Luna on hard mode, and, you know, that felt like a satisfying, like, challenge, but, like, Abyssion... I don't know, I just wasn't really willing to put up with it, because, like, he feels so disconnected from, like, the rest of the game. Like, he doesn't even have anything to do with, like, the main plot. There's just, like, this side quest where, like, you get, like, 8 swords... 8 weapons and you bring him back to him, and it's like, what does this have to do with the fucking conspiracy of the world and the fucking angels and shit? It just feels like a different game almost, and I don't want to put up with it. And there's this optional shitty dungeon that feels like cut content. It's an interesting idea. It's probably the most interesting dungeon in the game, in that, like, it's seemingly doing what I was asking for, where, like, there's no block pushing. It's just, like, an excuse to have core combat. But, like, they do shit where the combat starts to crack. Like, they put you in a room, and it's like, kill all the enemies, like, everyone in the room. And there's, like, 6 or 7 encounters, and, like, it's random what enemies you run into. They could have you fighting, like, final dungeon guys back to back to back, and those are, like, 5-minute fights. It's like... It kind of pushes the game to the breaking point, that optional content. And it's, you know, it's like, damn, these guys just, you know, they knew how to make good content, but not really anything else, huh? So, I finished that shit, and, you know, just went to beating the game. I think I didn't do all the arena battles either, but you know, I got my fill. You know, I did the main shit, that was solid. Everything else, you know, whatever, you know, it's not a perfect game. Who the fuck cares? I know the good in this package, and I saw what I wanted to see, so... That's about it. You know? I think we've covered everything. It is a good game, marred by classic JRPG stupidity. You know, the devs were just stupid and didn't know that dungeoning kind of sucks. And I looked at the credits, and it looked like one guy was the programmer, the guy who put together the combat. Like, one guy did the world map stuff, one guy did the dungeons, and it's like, maybe we should have had two guys for the overworld stuff. What are you gonna do? I feel like I want to keep going. Like, there's other things I want to bitch about. Like how, like, I don't want to play other Tales games, because, like, even if they probably maybe do overworld stuff better, like, the fucking combat introduces free run, where, like, you know, instead of doing that weird shit I was talking about before, where you have to, like, lock onto different enemies to, like, dodge attacks and shit, in, like, the character swapping and stuff, like, you just free run away from it. It's like a 3D world now, like you're playing Dark Souls or some shit, and it's like, that's kind of fucking lame. That's like less, I'm thinking less. I tried playing Tales of Vesperia, and that game doesn't let you switch party members until you, like, get some arbitrary upgrade that lets you do it, and it's like, bro, I just want to control everyone. What the fuck are you, what? Like, I don't think they're making these games for me. Were they ever making these games for me? Like, what I liked about Tales of Symphonia, at least, isn't being put to the focus. So, like, I think I'm not going to play any of those arena fighter-ass other Tales games. And I'm cool with Symphonia just being, like, one of a kind. It's fucking weird 2D fighting game-ass RPG with shitty dungeons. And a great story about racism and white people and anime, you know? Fucking classic.